Do you ever find that during the holiday season, or maybe after a long weekend of meal prep, you're left with a lot of veggie scraps in your kitchen? Now, of course, you can take these veggie scraps and freeze them and make a stock later, or you can put them straight into your compost pile. But before you do any of those things, consider stretching these veggie scraps even further. I'm talking about windowsill gardening. The first kitchen scrap that we'll talk about today, that's probably the easiest one that you can grow on the windowsill, is green onions. Green onions, also known as spring onions, are a staple in this kitchen. We get all the energy out of it as possible before it goes into the compost. And it's super easy. When you're cooking with spring onions, all you have to do is leave a little bit of the white part down near the root. Then cut just a little bit off of the root, not too much. You want to make sure that some is still left. After you've done that, simply pop it into a little container of water. Literally within hours, you're going to start to see these onions grow. Now, these taller onions have been growing maybe about 2 weeks or so. I cut this onion here just a few days ago, and look at the growth already, and look at the roots that have been growing out from it. Now, one of the really great things about growing green onions on the windowsill is that they can truly stay on the windowsill throughout their entire life cycle if you want them to. These longer green onions, check out the roots and check out the greens. I can cut these now and I can use these when I'm cooking. So I can keep these in water on the windowsill and just keep using them until all of the energy is spent and they can finally make their way into the compost pile. However, if you want, and it's okay to do this, you might actually find that you're stretching things a little bit longer. You can take your spring onions, once they've rooted, and you can put them into some soil. If you put them into soil, you can either keep them on the windowsill and let them grow in that medium rather than water. They'll get some nutrition that way. The water isn't really giving them much nutrition. It's just letting the greens grow, which is why they're not going to last super long in just water. But if you put them in soil, you can put them on the windowsill, you can put them under a grow light, or you can even take them outside. You can grow them in pots. If it's cool enough outside, because these are cool season plants, say 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, you can put them into the ground and they'll continue to grow. And they'll actually grow really well in the soil. I've had spring onions that I've rooted on the windowsill in a bowl of water, taken outside and put in the soil, that I've harvested greens off of for months. Needless to say, if you want to get into kitchen scrap windowsill gardening, green onions is a perfect introduction. Now, when it comes to onions, this method isn't just exclusive to the spring variety. You can also do this with your bulb onions. All you have to do is take the root piece that would usually go into your stock bag or go into compost and put it in some water. When you put it in some water, you'll start to see some roots grow. As these roots grow, you'll start to see some green emerging from the center. Now, you're not going to regrow a full onion on the kitchen sill, but one of the things that you can do is you can get some greens out of this. Again, this bottom piece still has tons of energy left to give. Why not let it give off that energy, feed you more before it goes into the compost? Another veggie scrap that's super easy to get started on the windowsill, celery. We cook with celery a lot, and I make sure that none of this goes to waste. Of course, we take the ribs, we eat them raw, or we chop them down and we cook them in a recipe. But what about the root end? This root end here is where the magic happens. And all you have to do to start growing celery directly on your windowsill is make sure you don't get rid of this piece. When you're ready to grow more celery, don't remove all the ribs. Just cut the entire stalk about where the green starts to turn to white. Once you have that piece, cut off a little bit of the root end to give it a fresh start, and then put it in a container of water and pop it on your windowsill. Within a day or two, you'll start to see some green emerging from the center of that stalk. And once it grows enough to where it's nice and leafy like this, I've got 3 stalks growing right now of brand new celery. I can take this and I can put it into some soil. Again, I can put it in soil and put it back on the windowsill if I want. I can put it downstairs under the grow light, or if it's cool enough outside, I can put it in a container or put it straight in the ground and continue my harvest. Before you put the cut celery ribs back into the fridge, I recommend putting them into a cup of water. That way they won't get floppy. Another type of plant that works incredibly well on the windowsill is fresh herbs. And I don't know about you, but during the holiday season, my kitchen is flush with fresh herbs. Right now on my windowsill, I'm growing 3 holiday staples: oregano, sage, and thyme. These will have to make their way into soil, but it's super easy to kickstart them by putting them in water on the windowsill. For these more woody herbs, you want to make sure that you're getting stems that have quite a bit of leaves, because you're going to remove most of the leaves. Leave the stuff at the top, but remove the rest. What you're doing there is you're exposing the leaf nodes. The leaf nodes, when they hit water, they start to react. It's just like if you were taking a cutting from a plant outside. Once you've removed the bottom leaves to expose the leaf nodes, cut just a little bit off of the very bottom of the stem. What you're doing here is you're creating a fresh cut. The stem, where it was cut originally before it was packaged, has started to callus over a little bit. So it's not going to draw in much water. But if you make your own cut, that stem will open up and will start to draw in water, and will start the process to grow you some herbs on your windowsill. And in just a little bit of time, you're going to start to see roots emerging from your stems. That means it's working. Now again, because the water doesn't have any nutrients to feed these plants, once you start to see the roots emerge, you're going to want to take these and put them in a little bit of soil. That soil will nourish the roots. The plant will start to grow. And before you know it, you're growing oregano, thyme, sage, basil, cilantro on your windowsill that you can harvest as needed. And then you can harvest your herbs, keep them in the soil, just snip a little bit off as you need them, and your plant will continue to grow. And what we're talking about today is just the tip of the iceberg. You can grow tons of more kitchen scraps on your windowsill for continuous harvest. Lettuces and small variety cabbages will start greening up perfectly on the windowsill. All you have to do with those is a very similar process to what you do with the celery. After you remove all of the greens, just make sure to take a fresh cut off the root end of the stem. Put them in some water on the windowsill, and you'll start to see greens emerging in no time. Then you can pop them into a little pot of soil, let them grow, and harvest greens whenever you need them. Speaking of greens, have you ever added radish, beet, or carrot greens to a salad? Absolutely delicious. And you can grow those on your windowsill too. As root vegetables, of course, what you typically eat are the roots. But if you save the green top and you put that into some water, you will start to see greens emerge. Now, just like with the onions, you're not going to grow another carrot or radish or beet, but what you will grow are greens. And you can harvest the greens, you can eat them raw in salads, or you can cook them up in a delicious recipe. Before heading out to the compost pile, I encourage you to give kitchen scrap windowsill veggie growing a shot.